Plenty of content over on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. One of the most popular videos of the year came after our review after Liverpool won away against Wolves. Their second goal, of course, coming from a throw-in. Here's what ensued.
I think the positive thing as well, and our club would be very happy, and Thomas Gronnemark as well, the throw-in coach, is that second goal comes from a move that they probably worked a lot on at training, the movement of Firmino and Salah on that long throw-in by Alexander-Arnold, and then they get a bit lucky maybe with the way that Dunker cleared that ball or half cleared that ball, and then Henderson slots it to Firmino. But it's, you have a throwing coach. You're the only team in Europe in those big clubs to have a throwing coach. And on a game like this, where you're not really playing well, where you're struggling, then you pull out one of those moves that you work on at training, and I think that's even more satisfying.
Oh, you got him going, Jules. You got him going.
Throwing coach. Oh, no. Hold on a second. Oh, no.
We got a big one.
Oh, no, it's down. Because it came from a throw-in, it's well done, the throwing coach. Because you know what? We didn't have a throwing coach. That would never have happened. Can you
Why
tell
did they
me?
have a throwing coach in the start then, if according to you, it's useless?
OK, so when you're looking for a throwing coach, what qualifications do you need?
But the guy is a scientific. The guy's worked this...
Scientific.
This is not just someone they picked out in the street.
But why does it matter?
It just annoys me.
And it's been a running theme since. Steve Nicol with us, as is Craig Burley. Now, it's the first time we've really heard from Liverpool throwing coach talking about Stevie. This was Thomas Gronnemark's comments earlier this week.
I'll say, first of all, a guy like Steve Nicol or Andy Gray, who also did it earlier, it's really clear for me to see that they have no knowledge around throw-ins, and it's also clear for me to see that they're like stuck in the football world like 30 or 40 years ago, where we were drinking like 10 pints the night before we had to play, and where we didn't do any specific. Of course they had passion at that time, but there are not all, but there are some old players who haven't really been following the modern football. And for me, it's okay. I think the fans and social media have answered for me, because a lot of people are calling them like outdated dinosaurs or something. I don't have the need to call them that.
Stevie, your response?
Do you know what? There's a saying, BS baffles brains. I'm telling you, he's actually just said that what we were doing 30 years ago, the game's moved on. What an absolute lot of nonsense, the game's moved on. Listen, I've spoken to players that have been in his sessions on the field. I've spoken to players that have been in his video sessions, sat for 40 minutes, and there wasn't one thing they said that they hadn't already been told. Listen, yes, I'm sure this guy can teach a player to throw it harder or throw it longer with some technique. But the stuff about moves, I mean, it's the same. It's been the same for years. And this nonsense that people talk about, well, the game's moved on. Well, let me give you an example. The game's moved on in terms of fullbacks, for example. Now, when I played, and certainly when I coached, a huge part of a footballer's responsibility was to cover his centre-back. That's not the case anymore. That's when you can say the game has moved on, because it's completely different. Throw-ins aren't any different. Yes, this guy can make you throw it longer or faster. Yeah, I can see that. And if you've got the money to splash out on a throw-in coach, then good luck to you, on you go. But don't tell me he's doing anything that we weren't trying to do 30 years ago. I'm sorry. Not having it.
I love this. This is great. Craig?
I'm not getting involved. He can take the flak again. Listen, you've wasted his day. You don't understand. You've spoiled his day. This is a man who, by lunchtime today, had shot his course record at the golf course, a 74. 2 weeks ago, it was never been thought of. He was smashing it around here, there and everywhere. He was in the doldrums. Today, he got the pick-me-up of his life, with the round of his life. He gets home, and the goalie coach has upset him again. I mean, what a day, what a spoiler that's been. But listen, on the other side of the coin, obviously the guys needled a little bit if anybody criticises them. I haven't got an issue. If Jurgen Klopp, as I said at the time, if Jurgen Klopp wants to bring a guy in and sees fit to do so, then fine. But please don't use social media as a guideline for, the fans have sorted it out and social media have answered them, because social media is not a platform for sensible conversation in the most. It's full of boneheads for the most that just want to get on and shout at former players who maybe have an opinion, like Stevie is. He's entitled to his opinion, and people just have to get on with it.
You know, Dan, let's be honest here. What has he really changed? He hasn't been changing anything. As I said before, it's the same stuff that was happening 25, 30 years ago. As far as patterns are concerned, no different.
I have to say, I would like to sit in one of these sessions. I would like to listen to see if there was something that you could learn from what you used to do as a player. And I would be intrigued to know the specifics of what he does. I mean, obviously throwing the ball in a bit, but the movement and offensive play, the defensive shape against throw-ins and all that kind of stuff. And I would like to see the specifics of it, because we've all sat, and Stevie mentioned it at the start, we have all sat with coaches of all sorts, defenders, ex-defenders, ex-strikers, ex-midfielders, whatever it is, and they'll talk through sessions or talk through what they want, and senior players can look at it and sniff it out and say, hold on a minute, that's just nonsense. I'm not saying it is, but I would like to sit through a briefing or a meeting or watch it in person and say, right, show me what this brings to the team, show me how this works, and show me how it makes me better. And I think maybe if we understood a bit more of that, we would have a better understanding around it. But as I said, if Klopp sees fit to bring him in, I've not, and I never have had an issue with it. But I would like to see the specifics of just how it helps Liverpool and gets them onto the front foot.
I would suggest that the main thing it does, bringing this guy in every so often, I think what it'll do, it'll concentrate the player's mind that throw-ins are important. Some players don't understand how important it is. It should be regarded as no different than a pass. But I think a lot of players don't concentrate on it enough. And if this guy coming in makes them concentrate, then that's fine. But just don't try and sell us some sort of revolution that's going on, that's all.
Would you like us to set up a Zoom meeting with you and him, Stevie? Maybe you could sit through one of his classes?
No, I'd rather be sat right next to him and listen to it myself with my own ears. So I'm nice and close.
But I tell you what, Dan, it is an important part of the game in general, because as Stevie would tell you, we used to do this throw-in thing with Scotland with Craig Brown when he was there, and we used to do this sort of same crossover thing many times, and it's a bit like the set pieces we used to work on with Scotland. None of them ever worked, but maybe that was just down to us. I don't know.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.